What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vexus, the lurking legend, head cook of the Eternal Dawn. Y'all can just call me Vex. And I'm joined today by my wonderful crew here to talk about the latest chapter of One Piece, 1152. Thank you all for being here. Make sure you guys like the stream, hit all the links in the description to support us and all the things that we do, and join the Discord. And yeah, let's introduce the crew. First, and certainly not least, we have the helmsman of the Eternal Dawn. We've got Knack Reacts. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope the rest of the crew is feeling well. We got honestly another great chapter, surprisingly, off the back of some giants. So happy to get into it with you guys. Actually excited
to see what you did there.
This with you guys. This was a big one.
Oh yeah, I'm also pumped for sure. Next up, we have the historian and first mate of the Eternal Dawn, Kube of the Red Sea. How you doing, brother?
Hey man, I'm excited. Another week of just cooking, like Nak is saying, it is really a gigantic chapter, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to talk about it.
That was unintentional. You don't have to keep this up all stream.
No, we're gonna ride this bit all stream long. And then last but certainly not least, someone who's like a brother to me, one of my best friends on this planet and my captain on this crew. We have Strawhat Lucas. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great today. I think the only word I could use to describe this chapter is gigantic. I mean, it's nothing about it, man.
You guys.
But no, I'm very excited to dive right into this one. What a spicy chapter again from Oda.
Yeah. I also gonna say, and honestly, with everything, I'm happy to do this every week, you guys. You guys are the only ones I would love to talk about this chapter only, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
I had to.
Oh my god. Sorry. But yeah, 1152, crazy chapter. It is titled scrolling up right now.
Awful day.
Awful day.
I was gonna, is there an echo in here? An awful day. And it starts out with yet another wonderful addition to the Yamato cover story. Chat, we're gonna spend a good 20 minutes on this. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, 5 more years. We love the Yamato cover story. I love Kawamatsu. That's my favorite scabbard. And we just see them kind of, yeah, they're just goofing off. And I don't know, it's wholesome. I can't really like see anything else discussion wise spawning from the cover story other than just like old T page 1 and Yamato are here. They're just, they seem, I don't know, page 1 still seems weird, but Ulti seems fine enough, like getting along with Kawamatsu.
She has some legs, man. Not in like a weird way, but like her legs are long as hell. Like, I did never realize that before. I don't know why, but this chapter I saw Ulti's legs and was like, what the hell? Why are they so long and skinny?
It's not as bad as Speed's legs from like 4 cover stories ago. Like, oh my god. But I will say, this old man over here in front of the sumo dude with the big whelp on his head, this old man with the checkerboard getup, that's drip. Like that is so clean. Look at that. Like,
oh, he's happy. Yeah. He's looking good. He's feeling good. Man's got ladies.
I have a new game with a cover story now. I'm gonna see who else is Yamato taller to. Because I feel like we've just been showing that Yamato is taller than almost 99% of people in Wano. It's just funny.
Oh man. But yeah, not much else to say cover story wise, although except for like 5 more years, obviously.
As I'm pretty sure, looking at this cover story, that we figured out the One Piece.
No,
it's Otama. It's Otama.
But and we don't always focus on, like, we'll move a little bit along before we get to the chapter proper, though. We don't always focus on the author's note here, but this is something special to me.
Yeah.
This is something so special to me. Oda is a man after my own heart. He said, and I quote, "Bread is too delicious. Speak on it, King." He said, "Caldi's toast spreads and lunch packs are so good. It's honestly becoming a problem." I've never felt more attuned to this mangaka in my life, or any mangaka maybe.
Listen, I'll be real. The moment I felt like truly personally connected with Oda in almost like a parasocial relationship is when I saw that he had texted the actor who plays Zoro in, I guess there's a live action, McKinyu, and was like, hey, do you want to play OPTCG today? And then he wrote, and this is what really, really just touched my heart, is, if not, don't text me back. Like, leave me alone. And I was like, that's my man right there. That's my guy. Hey, you want to come over? If not, just don't bother texting me back. Okay, so
Damn. Well, we get straight back into business down in the underworld, in the realm of the dead, where they say, let's hurry to the lift. And the hockey burst that we got a few chapters ago, we are finally catching up to that moment in time in this little bit of a flashback. If you like the word flashback, boy, are you gonna love this chapter. But we also get a really cool shot of Gerd, getting ordered to take care of this sack of filth. And I'm like, okay. At first I was like, are they talking about Road? They're definitely talking about Loki. Which that's a little uncalled for. But
Yeah. Dude, is it just me, or is Road super Sanji coded in this panel?
he is.
Like,
And
forget all
Frankie
the
coded.
Gaban parallels. Sanji ends up like Road.
Yeah.
oh my god.
He's kind of Frankie. He's kind of doing the super pose halfway. He's like, he's leaning into it like,
Tasso.
good
Road
job,
for
son."
Straw Hat. Yeah,
Listen, I
Road
told
for
y'all.
Straw Hat. That's what the title's all about, you guys.
Road, yeah. Who will be, when we said he will be the next Straw Hat, it's Road, yeah. But no, Road kind of got like
my
a
God.
small redemption for me, just like with how he acted after we got through the castle and everything. I enjoy Road's character. He's just kind of, an oddball. He's definitely, like myself, got the tism.
Oh my
I'm just saying. The dude builds a giant Lego house and collects a bunch of miniature people. Yeah.
I bet he's got a train set in there.
It takes one to know one. Like, Tiz recognized Tiz, you know what I mean? Like, I love Chopper 2 stepping up and be like, hey, I'm going to stay back with Gabon. I feel like something really important is going to happen between those two while everything else is going down. I really do.
There was something that was interesting at the start of the chapter. I know it's a naming thing, but that's why I want to see the official when it comes out. But I like that even when they talk about it, the sort of legend, abnormal hockey emanates from the realm of the sun, which I really like. That's interesting that even they call the hockey that is created by Imu abnormal, like it's not of this world. So we're really getting into the bread and butter of this power system that we've known for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Which I found was a good touch.
Yeah, that was actually one of the theories I was the most excited about whenever I was first getting caught up and I was able to view current theories in the YouTube space and whatnot. It was actually one by Parvision that was like elemental hockey. I'm sure everybody here has heard about it in passing at least, or seen the video. And like this kind of did make me think like, oh, is there like eldritch hockey or something are we gonna see some
Cosmic
other
hockey
form here that Conquerors is meant, because observation, like it's not like a perfect rock paper scissors with observation, armament, and Conquerors. It's very unbalanced, and so I'm wondering, do we get the counterpoint to Conquerors, whereas observation and Conquerors observation and armament seem to be the counterpoint to each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see. That's interesting.
Be pretty sick.
Yeah, because there isn't really one that balances back with the flow of things with Conquerors at all, except for other Conquerors. You know what I mean? Like that's the only thing that really stands up to it. So I really like that, Bex, because I've never thought about it. And with Oda, there's always two sides to the same coin, right? Like you said, armament and observation seem to go not parallel with each other, but kind of off of each other.
If not 2-3. And like, so, I mean, the hockey could fit as is, but I think that there very, very easily could be more to it as well. Another thing I want to mention really quickly from this first like page here, where they're like setting off and about to go do shit. Look at Nash. He is straight sinister. Like, look at this smile. This guy is ready for
battle.
heinous acts of he's about to commit war crimes. Like, that's crazy. Look at him.
He said Geneva Conventions. I don't even know her.
Oh my goodness. You Geneva, you brought her.
Yeah, you Geneva, you brought her.
No,
but this
actually,
is
it's
Go
a good point that you both brought up of hockey with Conqueror's hockey, because you think about it, even in their respective categories, in observation, you have future sight, be able to see the future of someone else, or you have the ability to see your own future. You have hardening, able to harden yourself, or you have Rio, able to hit someone from the inside, out the exterior, the interior. And it's with Conqueror's hockey, it's just Conqueror's hockey. So it is true, it is interesting. We might get more it might just be like the spectrum of how Conqueror's hockey and its counterparts. Like what other ability could counter it. So it's interesting. I never thought of it.
Well, it's like an
That way.
ogre. It's got layers, I think.
oh my god.
My god, damn, that's one hell of a way of putting it.
Parmesan is a sword.
The next most important bit that we definitely need to cover here as moving along in the chapter is that Gabon, while Chopper's like, hey, I gotta stay here, I gotta look after his wounds, they're serious, he said, hey, Straw Hat, be mindful of your Conqueror's hockey, because these people are by no means immortal. And Luffy, in the middle of getting like mansplained on, is just like, okay, no time, gotta go. He's like, heard that, dude. Like, and he just dips. So like, I'm wondering how much more there is to what Gabon said here. But this is huge because like I was just mentioning, is that if Conqueror's hockey seems to be the counterpart of this, like whatever other Eldritch hockey is going on upstairs, that would be really, really interesting. But we have no clue because Luffy doesn't sit there and wait. Not for Gabon, at least. That's later in the chapter. but he's just like all gas at this moment. And I really, really, really was hoping we got more from Gabon right then and there.
Yeah,
I do feel, because I think that's where we're all gonna have the discussion. Even though it was the whole Sanji and Zoro moment with Gabon, I do feel like Gabon was teaching a lesson to all three of them, even Luffy, because Luffy's big thing is I want to do all this with my friends by my side. I don't want to be the sole leader, and I do feel like his hockey is a power that must be understood and tamed. Your captain is one of the four emperors. You should be meticulous if you intend to have his back. And I think this was like a wake-up call for all three of them. Like they can't, even though they're together, they can't have their solo, progression. They also have to make sure that, they all level up together, not by one by one, which was I think a wake-up call that they needed.
Yeah, I want to speak real quick before we get into the spicy Gabon stuff that happened. With Vex, what you said about Luffy and him being like, I don't know why, but with the way that Luffy was acting this chapter, I feel like he's matured so much since Wano. Like after Egghead and everything, and I think that this was part of it as well. Like he didn't need Gabon to explain to him, like when he said like, be mindful of the way you use it, because Luffy just was like, okay, I know exactly what you're saying to me right now. And he's so sure of himself, which he's always been sure of himself. Like that's like the whole point of Luffy, is that he's a head start. He always is like right there in your face about everything. But it seems like he's being more mindful about the things that people are saying to him in a way that we haven't seen before, right? And more mindful almost about how he's perceived by people now too. Like think about when he met Saul again. He made sure that he did the whole Jinbei pose and was like, thank you, old man Saul, for taking care of my Nakama. Like, you know what I mean? Like the whole old Yakuza salute thing. It's just, there's another part in the chapter too, which when we get there, I'll bring it up. But I don't know. Yeah. Luffy here lately has just been peak Luffy to me.
I like seeing more maturity and more growth from him and whatnot, but like I have a harder time being cool with it when it comes at the cost of a bit of dramatic, there's a bit of dramatic irony tacked on so that us, the audience, we don't know what extent Luffy knows. There's been a lot of, throughout the whole story so far, us seeing it through Luffy's eyes. And so everything that Luffy knows, we know. And maybe we know more than Luffy knows. And it's very, very uncommon, I think, that Luffy knows more than what we know. That's partly a big issue that a lot of people had with the Sabo introduction and it feeling sloppy. I don't mirror that sentiment, but it does feel a little off here, I will say. Like I want to see Luffy grow up as a character and things like that, but at the same time, we as an audience, when new things are being implemented, need some sort of mouthpiece for that to make sense to us. And I get that Oda's like, we're just gonna have to let him cook, you know what I mean? But it's like, come on, dude. Like I'm a little bit in me right now is very impatient and just wants this to you know, start to like answer some questions.
Yeah, of course. It's because I think I've been feeling that a little bit lately too, and I think it's just because of how well paced everything has been lately, and how much. Someone didn't like where we went this chapter. No, but nonetheless, like Oda's been throwing everything at us. Like we got the mural, and then we got like the Holy Knights attacking, and then we got like more Holy Knights, and then we got freaking Emu possessing Gunko. Like it's my bad, Emunko. So like it's just been nonstop lately. So I'm actually kind of glad that the chapter ended up going where it was at, because I was like, I need to breathe. Like this has just been crazy. All right. But I do. Yeah, Nick.
Oh, go ahead. You finish up your point, and then
I was just about to transition back into the discussion that Gabon has with the crew about Conqueror Saki. But Nick, yeah, go ahead, brother.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to focus on, because it seems the Giants of Elbaf don't really understand it either. Like the way Loki reacts to the words Gabon says, it's like he's finally understanding why his power is different. Like they understand hockey, but maybe they don't know the differences between it. I'm real interested on this dialogue though, because Harden's not budging an inch. He's not going to let him go at all until, you know, we get a bit further down the chapter. There's a discussion about it, but he has no interest in Loki coming with him right now.
Yeah.
What's
I think it's
interesting about what you said is that the Giants might not understand hockey the same way that the rest of the world does. It could be similar to like with Boa, and they call it a different thing on Amazon Lily because it's shut off. It's closed from the rest of the world. And in Wano also, them referring to it as Rio, another country with closed borders. So I feel like Loki would probably be the one giant that would know about hockey, being that he has been off island. I feel like more recently than most of the other giants, except for Dorian Rogi, obviously.
He has a higher bounty, so it is safe to assume, at least with a 2.6 billion, and think of Dorian Broggy, they're just at 1.8 billion, you know. So it's like it's safe to assume, and they've been to the rest of the world, so it's safe to assume that Loki did at least do a stunt or two to be able to have that such a high bounty. Unless he's like built different, he got a bounty for his antics from Elbaf, which is crazy.
Or
Yeah,
for
but
his
also
devil
the
fruit.
event, like we can get into. Yeah, exactly. We'll get there, but we know there was an event that involves the world government 14 years ago now, like confirmed.
Yeah.
So
It could also be
the bounty could just be a precedent of that, because Robin didn't do anything and still had a bounty put on her just from knowing she existed. So I expect it to be similar.
That 8-year-old girl's alive? Bounty!
Yeah, I do have something, and it's basically when Rayleigh first introduced hockey to Luffy, he introduced it with, naming them colors, color of observation, color argument. What's interesting is Gabon and also Luffy making that comment where not only does he know, but without even, in this arc, he didn't use Conqueror's hockey, but Scopper could sense it. So I do wonder if we had colors, if there's something else that enables them to make the difference. Like maybe a sound, maybe every, because they used to talk about the 5 cents, a smell or something. Because with Rayleigh, it was
like
color.
a conqueror.
So, I don't know. It's like
this must be something. Find out.
Yeah,
there must be something.
This page, because it's kind of on that line. You know what I'm saying?
What if that's how we find out Rayleigh has synesthesia? He gets to see hockey. Like, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, the discussion on Conqueror's hockey here is something that I know the power sailors are gonna love. Zoro fans, Sanji fans.
I love it for different reasons. No, this is the most interesting part of the chapter, in my opinion.
Yeah,
This
I
shows
have
the
to agree.
level that we're at.
It's up there.
To just lay out what I took from this whole thing. So I kind of look at this as, because I went into Elbaf after Wano, especially with this idea that, oh, the boys are on top of the world right now. You know what I mean? They're ready to take on anything. And now after this conversation, I'm like, oh yeah, the boys are not even
Not
fit
on
to
top of the
be
world.
emperors yet. Like,
No, I was telling Knack before stream, y'all, like, when Zoro was like, I have Conqueror Saki, like, I lost it, man. Like, what? And Luffy, though, knowing, he was like, yeah, it's been oozing off of you. What do you mean? That's why everyone on the ship was like, oh, man, maybe they are all getting tired on the way from Egghead. Uh-oh. Did I lose the crew? Guys, I think I lost the crew. Oh no, stream. Give me 1 second. I gotta get my twins back. This is no good. No good at all, party people. That's okay. I can talk to stream for a moment. What's good, stream? I love you. I hope everyone's doing good. Make sure you like the stream. I had a really good time reading this chapter, if I'm honest. Did not have a good time with the stream crashing. That part wasn't fun. But, you know, we'll make it work. We'll make it work, right, boys? I don't...
Oh, we can hear.
Yes, yeah.
No, we can hear.
Discord crashed on me again in the middle of a stream. This is like the 4th time it's happened in a row, so that's always fun. But yeah, audience is still live. We're all still good.
Can they hear us?
They can hear you. They can't see you guys right now, but I'll fix that. Don't worry. Thanks, Knack. Can't see you in Cube.
Yeah, don't sweat it. So yeah, we're talking about the conversation between Gaban, Usopp, Sanji, and Zoro. So I know Vex, you were in the middle of speaking. I'm not really sure where you got cut off, but if you want to just take it away.
I was just gonna say that it's really interesting seeing, you know, Zoro getting humbled a little bit here, because he has been very puffed in the chest area and
cocky,
a bit standoffish. Yeah, a bit of a hot shot since Roof Piece, I feel like, and maybe even a little bit before. He showed some compassion before, whereas I don't really fully agree with this sentiment, but I've heard plenty of people in the community saying he's felt a bit off in recent arcs, and I see where they're coming from, but I don't really fully harp on that like a lot of people do, because I love both Zoro and Sanji. I love every Straw Hat. Even the potentially the new one that we might be getting soon. But I think that Zoro being told by somebody else like this is how it is, it shows that there's a whole other level, because Luffy isn't going to be that kind of person who will just say that kind of shit to somebody. And when we
Zoro's
last met somebody on the,
you know what I mean?
yeah, when we last met somebody on this caliber, that wasn't an op, it was Rayleigh, and Rayleigh didn't say shit about Zoro, so he's obviously had some growth, you know, which is it's cool. And this is like, it's not often you get a figure this powerful that's not against you and that's willing to say so much. And I really think that Sanji showing like the eagerness, he's like, oh dude, it's me, right? It's me, I'm the Conqueror's Haki user and stuff. It's like, it's a funny interaction. I think that there's going to be a lot of Sanji fans that are coping after this, and I'm so sorry. I love Sanji, don't get me wrong, but like there is a little interaction here with the panel when they're like changing the subject, where Sanji is still talking to Gaban a little bit, and I've already seen people being like, oh, that's where he told him right there that he's, and I'm like, okay, calm down. Like I do think that Sanji, as well as Nami and Usopp, will get conquerors by end of story. But I think this all but confirms he does not have it right now, which is interesting as well.
And I want to ask something.
A take on that specifically. So you can go ahead, Cube, because I got to talk about Sanji in particular here.
Yeah, and I'll even bring it a bit further. Everything that Vex has said, it's also the two people that were used in that example, Zoro and Sanji, two polar opposite. One is too emotional, and one contains his emotion too much, keeps it to himself. So I think also it's like this thing of, taming it is one of them is too, you know what I mean? He's too much, So definitely right now you're not ready to get Conqueror's Haki, and then Zoro is, dude, if you bottle up your emotions like that, you're never going to contain your Conqueror's will. So I do like as well, like the two people are just too like polar opposite to one another, which is cool. Like it's a balance. You need both.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm kind of going to bounce off that myself, but this intentional redirection here with Sanji, and that's what I'm going to call it, is very significant because I think what Gaban is actually saying to Sanji, and flame me in the chat if you disagree, but I think this is Gaban telling him he doesn't have the traits of a conqueror, and that this is ultimately showing us he needs to learn from some of Zoro's qualities, as Zoro needs to learn from some of Sanji's qualities.
Mm-hmm.
This is right on the money, like that. And it reminds me of the theory going around about how Roger told Shanks he wasn't the one, and Shanks kind of set his own path. This is Sanji being told he's not enough or he'll never do something. And what makes Sanji stronger is emotion and drive, and this will push him to reach the next level.
Yeah.
Say figuratively, but like his fire will burn hotter from this motivation.
I
was just gonna say, if you think about it, with a perfect parallel is whenever things hit the fan and Zoro and Sanji are side by side, they bicker the whole time. But we saw with Odin, what happened? Instantly, the two wings, they were side by side, ready to protect their captain. They were like on demon time. So yeah, I do see what you mean.
Oh
by
yeah, and we've seen that ourselves. Both Fishman Island was a heavy point of that. Like Luffy could walk towards Hody without even fear of anybody around him because they'd jump at him and Zoro and Sanji had his back.
Yeah,
and, Wano, because he wouldn't have fought Kaido without the wings.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That's how I kind of put it, because I had the almost the exact same thought, that I think Sanji does have it, but he cannot activate it unless he takes a page from Zoro's book. And Zoro, on the same hand, he's got it. But maybe he can't control it because he doesn't know how to tune into his emotions as well as Sanji does. And wings, like you said, that's how I had put it, is that wings balance each other out. If one of them is too heavy, a bird won't fly. If one of them is too light or slightly askewed, even a little bit, a bird won't fly. You know what I mean? So there's a reason that Oda uses the terms that he uses. And I believe that will come into play, especially with Zoro and Sanji in this situation. Because I think that's probably what Scopper told him. I think Vex is kind of right. It's like, hey, you do not have it right now. Like, but you could, but you don't right now. Like, you ain't it right now. I think that
the biggest thing is that, like, we've seen Rayleigh and Scopper. That's Roger's two wings, and both have conquerors.
Yeah.
Like, why would we believe Luffy's wings would be any different? It's just
exactly.
I think that there's still development that needs to take place before the true end of the story, just because we're in the wind up and in the final saga. So Sanji has further growth, which it's evident because we know that he still has to like part of Wano and Roof Piece and his actions there versus Queen was him being okay with being what the Pirate King needs, and that's only one part of the equation, and he still has to figure out the rest. So there's a lot to Sanji's character that he still needs to figure out, whereas Zoro had already resigned to being that. I feel like hundreds and hundreds of chapters ago. Not that it's a foot race, like I put in the chat, I think that both Sanji and Zoro, I put them completely equally because I speak on the narrative, not on the individual character. You know what I mean? Exactly,
brother. Could not have said it better myself. It's very.
I don't think the takeaway is that Zoro stronger than Sanji here. I think the takeaway is that the whole crew is lacking if they wanted. I think
the takeaway here is that he also acknowledged Jinbei, and we gotta, like, come on, big old Tio Jinbei, like he's up there with the big fish, like that's the takeaway.
Big fish, I see what you did there.
It was a great moment.
I told Neck before stream, I did have a different kind of take. I don't believe this. I'm going to preface this by saying I do not believe this. But I thought it would be hilarious if Gabon told Scopper something along the lines of, like, well, you haven't realized? You all have it. Like, every crew member has, like, you're a crew of conquerors, my God.
I told
like,
him not to say this
wild.
publicly.
It would be so wild to me if that was the case. Like, you can't tell that raccoon dog has conquerors hockey.
Who talks
Not
like
you.
that? Who would be like, huh? There's another on your in your group who uses conquerors, and then when it's silent, oh, actually it's everyone.
And another.
It's all of it. And another.
He
And
goes
another.
Billy Mays.
Yeah.
But wait, there's
It's
more.
more. Yeah.
I mean, and if you think
You're
about
gonna
it,
love this.
people would say, yeah, no, people say it would not be possible. In a way, it's not factual, but at least half of the members of the Rock Pirates that we know of, Gloriosa, Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard, we saw with his fight, he had those Conquerors Lightning with Roger. We know those are confirmed people and they were all part of the same crew or same group that went together. So it's not like out of the realm of possibility that you can have a crew that has maybe 80 to almost 100% people having Conquerors in it.
No, I'm not saying that it's out of the realm of possibility for more characters. I'm just laughing at the
Yeah.
idea of the
There's been a lot of
dialogue.
people.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, since this
There's
chapter
more.
came out, the scans came out, a lot of people have been talking about how they think that the core East Blue 5 will all get it. And I love the Usopp glow up agenda. And man, I really hope he gets something, but I'm not sure if Elbaf is for Usopp what a lot of people like I've already spoke on this, but I'll say it again. Just for brevity real quick, I'll keep it concise, is that like to me Usopp sharing drinks and telling tales with his giant friends, that is all I ever wanted from him on this island. If he gets 0 power-ups here, I am still more than happy with what his character arc got from that interaction alone. So I don't care if he gets a power-up here. I think he will absolutely by end of story have Conqueror's Hockey, and I think the same thing of Nami. And absolute goat in the community, friend of the channel, Chestnut Tanuki, I know she's a huge proponent of Nami having Conqueror's Hockey. Jinbei had mentioned it when they were having like the post Wano antics and stuff like that. Like, oh, does she have Conqueror's Hockey? Like, so I mean, like, I really do feel like it's very well supported. Yeah, and then Sanji's I feel like the most obvious as a contender. So I do think that the core 5 will absolutely get it.
I
at the
put
very
Sanji
least by end of story.
Getting Conqueror's Hockey on my last 2 bingo cards. Like, that is how, like, the writing on the wall is with it. Like, because I'm like, that I need an easy win for one of these. Oh, Sanji gets COC. Okay. Like,
Talking about easy wins, Luffy asking Loki to join his crew was something we all kind of said was going to happen sooner or later. Hashtag free Loki. Loki's
Hashtag,
I
hashtag rest in
didn't put
peace
it on
the
my
Sunny.
bingo card though.
Rest in peace the Sunny. Rest in peace the Sunny.
No, we're gonna
Loki
get Biblo to make the Sunny huge.
bigger. Yo!
Yeah.
No,
That
he
actually
doesn't
would be
actually
cool.
have to accept. He doesn't have to accept. We all just said that Luffy's gonna ask. We never said he's gonna come.
That is true.
Actually,
That is true.
Will, Dvex, you're saying using Biblo can use his fruit on a ship. Remember there's a comment in Fishman Island where someone questioned, how could someone build such a massive ship? How could it be feasible? They said about the Noah. So that could be interesting if Biblo can make ships look bigger. Ooh, didn't think of that. Oh, look, that's why you're the cook.
Yeah, I think there's so much in the world of One Piece that anytime somebody tries to write something out, I'm just like, you really can't do that. Like, so many times people want to call me like the devil's advocate, and I'm just like, I'm just applying critical thought. Like, I'm just saying that like there's more to
You're a
the
hater.
story. Like,
You don't like Oda.
yeah.
It's a matter of reading comprehension.
But I mean,
Widow Willie.
Widowy reading comprehension.
okay.
I love
stop.
Loki's reaction
So,
though to being asked to join the crew, where he's like, "Don't mess with me!" Like, and Luffy's
he's like, I'm not
just
gonna
like,
be your underling. Like,
like, Luffy's like, "Yeah, you will. Your brother is."
no, but I like
I love
the interaction though. We get like some real passion from Haruden here, and
Yeah.
it's it's much needed. I've thought that like we got some cool characterization during their like kid flashback. And it just feels so great every single time we get anything from Haryuden, like actually being a developed character, because we got nothing from him in Dressrosa. So I'm like, look how far we've come, you know?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It almost reminded me, if I'm honest, of Frankie in Dressrosa. Not as emotional, where Frankie told Luffy, like, I can't do that, Captain, I'm sorry. But because you see Haijuden kind of contemplate what Luffy's doing when he's looking at him. He's like, you're going off your gut, right? Because for all intents and purposes, Luffy is Haijuden's captain. Like, Luffy doesn't want to be, but that's how Haijuden sees him, you know what I mean? And for him to just straight up be like I'm sorry, but Loki's a condemned criminal. I can't do this. And Luffy's just like, really? You can't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm happy you brought up Dressrosa, because something that was introduced by the goat Fujitora with the whole casino thing. It was a King Furzer. How he, with his observation hockey, he can tell someone's spirit if he's a good person, but also deceit and truth. And I find it very interesting that Luffy says that the moment Loki Harujen calls him out, and Loki has that reaction. And I'm wondering if
saying that since he met him as well, you know what I mean? Right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Well, his rationale to his crew here. Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, it could be this thing, but this is why he also repeated it again. Like, he can literally hear the spirit of Loki saying, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, he can actually, like Fujitora was saying, like, he can hear the spirits talk to him. That's how in the casino, he knew that that's why he knew he was being tricked. That's why he attacked them, even though he couldn't see anything. So this tells me that I think Luffy now, in terms of observation, hockey, and, like, at least emotional response in that regards, it's at the level of Fujitora.
Well, I think
to speak on that a little more, like, so we've seen before that you're able to, with observation, also sense the levels of people's hockey, like Scopper earlier this chapter, and Big Mom was talking smack to Kid and Law, saying like, you could combine both of your hockey together, it's not half of mine. So like being able to sense the available hockey that somebody has, that is a facet of observation that's been pretty well supported. Yeah, exactly. And so whenever he says this to his crew, to Zoro and Sanji, who are freaking out, like, what about all the food? What about the ship and stuff like that? He says, Elbaf doesn't seem to want him, but he seems okay. Besides, if he tries to start something, I'll just kick his ass. So I'm like, Luffy, I feel like Luffy is at that level, not quite to Scopper maybe, but he is able to see the available hockey that Loki has here. And he knows that his is greater. Like he has that kind of mentality here.
What I was gonna say, if I may, real quick, is Cube, you brought up emotions and like the way that Luffy can kind of probably feel Loki's intent and like his almost that, like, you know, he didn't do this thing. And I think that kind of does harken back to what we were saying about Zoro and Sanji, where Sanji is too much into his emotions and Zoro has none. They need to find that balance, just like Luffy has, where he knows when to take things serious and he also knows when to tap into that emotional side. Like in this moment, he's not freaking out the way that everyone else, like since they've gotten down there with him, Haijuden has freaked out like 4 times. Loki has had like a crash out a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and Luffy has just kept a cool level head for the most of it. And I think that goes to show again with the whole, how much he's grown and matured almost. But we get kind of a twist here where Gaban is the one that's like, Haijuden, we need to release Loki. Not what I expected.
Well, yeah, it's genius. This is what we needed, because Gaban even says it. Nobody was gonna speak up, but we can get right into it. But I really love this. Who else can get him talking? You may have different mothers, but you're still brothers. Yeah, it's a beautiful moment by Gaban.
I think so as well.
I think it's really something as well because, I mean, there's clearly some malice that Loki has towards Red Hair Shanks. Yeah. And with information that we're about to get in this chapter, that there might be a little bit more perspective on why he despises Shanks so much. Yep. Yeah. Because, and we'll get further into it in a bit. I'm sure you guys already know where we're going with this, but the chapter does elaborate a bit on what happened the day that Harold passed here in a bit.
It was an
But
awful day.
I think it's crazy because Scopper was there as well. And it doesn't really seem there hasn't been any significant interaction between Loki and Scopper, or them talking to or about each other that says that there's that same malice towards Scopper. So I don't know. I'm wondering exactly, because it is not fully clear how things went down, but if Shanks put the blame on Loki, and Scopper just kind of was complacent in that. And now this is him rescinding that. Like, and his word means so much to this nation.
Yeah.
Obviously. So it's crazy, like how all of these people reacted to what Gabon said.
And not only that, but
like, oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, before we get into the flashback, this is the narrative the entire country knows. You know, Loki killed 113 people. He left Jarl at the brink of death, killed his own father. He's the worst criminal we've ever known.
The worst cunt.
Gabon's like, yeah, no. That's not quite it.
Yeah, I have to agree. And then when you said about Shanks, I find that interesting because the way that I was thinking about it is that maybe him and Shanks, like, Loki accepted this, but he blamed Shanks for whatever happened to his father. And that's something we'll have to get into more in the flashback and how I think things went down. But yeah, I think that maybe Loki was completely like, no, I will take the fall for this. You know, I will be that scapegoat for Elbeth. Because he doesn't seem to mind that he's locked up. Well, he does mind that he's locked up because he wanted Luffy to free him. But he doesn't seem to mind that the people think of him the way they do now. When clearly, even though he was a little violent, they did love him. Like, they were very excited. Like, they're like, look up in the sky. It's Prince Loki. Prince Loki has returned. You know what I mean? Like, they were hyped. They were super hyped that he was back.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Before we get into all of the Shanks and Gabon stuff, though, there's just another small interaction I want us to focus on here in the underworld before we go into Flashback Central.
I want to add to what you guys were talking about. I also feel like it's interesting what he says about setting that hockey on that special day. Because think about it. Maybe Scopper recognized that signature because of God Valley. That's why he felt like, you know, he always wondered, never saw any traces, but it was almost so familiar that something he sensed on that fateful day in the West Blue. So I'm wondering as well, like, he didn't know much, but you know what I mean? It's something that he's familiar with. Says, could it be? So he was always open to a possibility that there's more to it. Hence why at the beginning, even though he agreed that Loki should be locked up, he had no problem with Luffy getting the key.
Yeah.
If you get through me, I'll let you free him. Like, he's always wondered if there was more to the story because of that. So I'm wondering, because of God Valley. He was never sure. It was like a suspicion. You know, suspicion.
Well, as Gabon starts to talk about it, Hadrian sends his crew, and Luffy also sends his crew up. They're gonna go up to the Sun Realm, and they're staying behind to hear out what Loki has to say. Luffy is particularly interested because of the mention of red hair Shanks.
Yep.
And then Zoro shows his Mihawk alliance here.
That dumb Shanks thing again.
Hey, don't call Shanks dumb.
Yeah.
This is a pretty funny interaction.
Dude, I had a funny reaction. I said, what if the reason why Zoro is so salty is not about Luffy, is because for 2 years he kept hearing that he's almost as weak as you're almost as weak as Shanks.
Yeah.
And you just Mihawk slandering Shanks every 2 seconds. And so it's PTSD for him.
Yeah, it's not even the fact that Luffy mentions it a lot. It was that Mihawk was like, if you knew Shanks when I knew him, the whole time they were together.
Yeah. But they want Loki to spit up the truth. And we are given a famous Oda clock. We are given 3 minutes. Loki has 3 minutes to explain exactly what his side of the story is.
How many chapters is this 3 minutes going to last?
Oh my god. First of all, yeah, let's place our bets. Let's do predictions here. But no, I'm really wondering, like, Gabon's word was like Haryuden was standing on it with all 10 toes. He was completely against even humoring Loki. And now he's like, give me 3 minutes. And it's not like whatever Loki says in those 3 minutes, he'll believe, but he's willing to at least hear that much of a testimony and then figure out for himself instead of just go with what has been spoon fed to Elbath. So this is huge. Yeah. This is a great moment between these two brothers. I think that this is, a lot of people are not super psyched about some of this. And I think that y'all just need to let Oda cook. Like this is
let my man cook.
This is kind of peak.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent. Go ahead, Cube.
I was just gonna say, and also what I like about this is inversion or parallel. It gives, Nak's been spitting out about the Fishman Island parallels in this arc. This is very telling of Nami and Jinbei when she wants to hear his story that led to her mom's death, and it's unalive. Mm-hmm. And you have the same thing now with Haryuden wanting to know about what really happened to his father. So I did like that callback to Fishman Island. And I went to look, the face that Haryuden has when he says at the end is the same as Nami when she says, "I will listen to your story."
Yeah,
when she's all mad. So
it reminded me of that as well. It's a very, very good parallel right there. But I will say, with like the whole people getting upset that like we're going to a flashback or whatever, why? We have had nothing but heat for weeks. Like we all knew this was going to happen eventually within Elbath. I think now is the perfect time before we get up there. Like this is when this
the grievances that I've heard. The grievances that I've heard have mostly been surrounded around Loki for Nakama. Like people don't think that there's enough for him to join. And I'm like, first of all, if you think we're coming out of this interaction feeling the same way about this character, then
you're wrong.
I said this earlier. I said this earlier in another community server, but I was like, either you're just being unrealistic or you have already resigned yourself from like a very pivotal plot line in the current arc, which is on you, not the writing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No. And that's how I feel about it, is that anyone who thinks that we're going to come out of this flashback and we're going to look at Loki the same way, once again, not to meme on it, it's a lack of reading comprehension. We all knew every flag that a flashback was coming was going off like check marks. Think of Egghead. Exactly. Right before we got the Kuma flashback, what happened? Big bad of the arc shows up, starts wrecking stuff a little bit. Some fighting does go down, and then we went right into the Kube flashback. What happened in Elbath now? Big bad of the arc or whatever, Emu shows up, and some fighting went down, and now we're in a flashback.
Dude, people love to complain about those kind of stuff. I don't remember people. They always complain about flashback, but no one complained when Katakuri decided to have his own donut party during the battle.
Yeah,
whole cake, where he decided to have a donut break. So just let them be, the way it is. We needed that flashback. There was still a lot of mystery. So
yeah, no, exactly, and I think that's exactly what this will be. Because of the way that the pacing of the Elbath arc has been, I think this is a much needed lore drop and like a much needed point of answering some of the questions that we've all had since the beginning of the arc, or at least since Ja Rule, Herald, and this whole Loki situation came into play. So I really don't get it. I do not get people being upset about this at all. It like I said, it feels like the natural arc progression to me, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited to see what the hell Herald's about. Like, I need to know more about this king because he's so well loved, and then with what we got in the chapter, which we'll get there, I need to see how he became so well loved. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to happen for me.
Yeah, and so as we get into said flashback, he says like, it's cruel of you, brother. You really want me to relive that day? And he says, I don't want to remember. And we get the title of the chapter. It was an awful day. He said it. He said the thing. And we are then brought 14 years back into the past at OS Castle. And we see Ja Rule, who may or may not be innocent, and we may have slandered this man Very heavily.
Yes, we might owe him an apology. That's for sure. But look,
Listen.
we said how big he was compared to the Giants. Like when he first showed up, Loki's taller. Like
Yeah, Loki is
holy
bigger
crap,
than him.
bro.
Yeah, this is huge.
Wild size. It's huge.
But we
and
see
that
them walking
hammer is
up.
Wicked.
This is not Ragnir. That's something to notice about this hammer that Loki is carrying. That looks like a gavel, almost like a courtroom kind of thing, whereas Ragnir looks like more like a Mjolnir,
Hammer.
or like I've heard Will of Dreams in the chat. He's very, very hoping that it's a poneglyph, and I'm like, but this is a different thing entirely. You see, like, which is an interesting catch. I didn't notice that when I was first reading through.
Quick little point. What if that is Ragnir? And maybe Loki didn't eat that family devil fruit after all. Maybe he fed it to
something
the
I was going to
hammer.
speak on.
Yeah.
That's something I was going to speak on
I was
very,
like,
very much in depth later on. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad. Same brain, brother. Same brain.
I won't lie. When I first saw the change in the hammer, it did give me the vibe of that fake hammer that Usopp had in Outland Park. Quickly.
That
Yo,
was a
shout out
totally real hammer.
Winston.
Yeah, it's a different.
Haven't
But it
seen you
gave me
chat in a bit,
the
brother.
vibe.
Good to see you.
It is
Slanders.
different. It is different. But at first I said, dude, is that the same? Oh no, there are some differences. It's not the same.
Yeah,
type of
there's
hammer.
some differences. Like the whole
I've been saying since the
cylindrical shape.
beginning, his hammer is going to be a devil fruit weapon.
Yeah.
And this next page or section of this page is absolutely huge for me, specifically because they're walking up and they're like, yeah, it's hard to care about what the whims of the of a government dog. He sold out to the people who killed. What is that word? What does that word say, guys?
Rocks! Buggy's dead!
Okay, calm down.
That's a bingo piece for
That's a bingo piece for me right there that I get to check off. We
Let's
got
go.
Rox's face in like the previous Loki flashback, but nobody said his name. And I put on my bingo card specifically, Rox is mentioned. So he wasn't mentioned in the previous like bits that we got. He is mentioned directly by name here. I'm gonna be so upset if the
What if it's a different
the
Rox?
officials
No, it's a
if the
different
officials
Rox.
don't mention him. But this is
It's
huge.
Rox D.
This is
Quebec.
Rox D. Yeah.
No,
This is Rox D. Monkey.
no, imagine the plot twist that it's actually a sibling of Rox because it is his family name. That would be crazy. That they're not talking about
Rox D.
Zebex.
Luffy.
I would love that.
I'm
Oh
sorry.
man, but
I didn't mean to put that out
yeah,
there.
this is pretty interesting because like clearly Ja Rule's still like an elder. He's still a significant individual, but he's resigned himself away from politics. He says that's a young man's game, and we get some really interesting interactions as they start to approach and whatnot. Seeing how they have different opinions on the future of Elbaf, and Loki wants warriors. Ja Rule is obviously happy to have peacekeepers, or just like peaceful individuals. He's saying it's cool how like we know the person he's talking about specifically, Ilva, is one of the kids who is currently captured. He's saying like it's cool that Ilva will not ever have to hold a weapon or no war.
Yeah.
And he's down with that. And Loki is clashing with that ideal, which I think is a cool interaction.
I do too. Not to backpedal at all, but I wanted to mention this about the rocks thing. That's basically confirming that the government did take him out, by the way. Because Loki straight says,
As far as Loki's understanding of it.
yeah, as far as
Yes.
Loki's understanding, of course. But I do love this. I agree, especially with Ya Rule, and like there was a little bit of like stuff that he had said. Oh, my bad, baby. But with Ya Rule, there was some stuff that he said that in the chapter prior where it felt like he kind of didn't agree with Harold completely on the way that he was doing Elbaf with like the warriors, because that's kind of what fueled the slander for us. But to see this side of it where he's like, no, it will be nice for my great-great-grandchildren to never have to know war is yeah, I like this. It made me almost be like, man, maybe Ya Rule isn't a bad guy, but I'm still watching you, old man.
Yeah, it gives
my
me
God.
Loki. The way Loki talks about the deal that his father did gives me the vibe of the flashback of Skypiea when young Viper was upset with the chief trying to make peace with Ganfall.
Yeah.
And
It's
he
a
was
crazy
resenting.
hip-hop
he-
name.
Yeah, I know.
Young
he was,
Wiper.
yeah. How you want to call me, Whipper? But anyways, you know, like that same resentment
That
of
was
him making
harder.
deals with someone that they consider enemies because of stuff that happened in the past. It's very similar. So I do like
Yeah.
that callback as well. Skypea. Sorry, I had to.
Skippia.
Yeah, as they're both charging through, Loki just like bashes through a door and stomps this guy's face in, fully
Disregarding.
nonchalant,
Yeah.
non-pressed, just chill, very low key of him, dare I say. But and as they enter into the audience chamber where the king is supposed to be, this is sick.
Visceral.
This is
visceral.
crazy.
This is some
Oh, man.
violence.
What's up with these outfits they're wearing too, man? Telling ya, these coats, they keep coming up. Every time some dastardly deed is done, these jackets
To
are
tie
around.
this to the cover
Life for
story,
betrayal.
they kind of look like Who's Who.
I wouldn't go
Like
that
with their
far.
helmets-
I just
their
think of like
helmets-
Gunko's jacket or King's jacket or Magellan or
No, not the jacket, the
multiple
helmets.
other people.
The helmet's
Oh, yeah,
very
yeah.
very reminiscent of Who's Who's helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As-
so I've seen a lot of people try to dissect this and break it down. And the way that I had originally interpreted it is off a knee-jerk reaction. I saw horns and black capes and was like, oh, they've all been flipped and turned
Yeah.
against that boy. I don't think that's the case after further inspection, though. I think that very probably Harold was flipped.
I think so as well.
Because he's the most powerful piece, of this nation. He is of the hierarchy, and that's what we saw Gunko specifically go for with Emu's powers, is like, oh, we're gonna take out the leader and instill a new leadership. So like that's the highest ranking guy there. And so if he were to be flipped and turned into like Demon Herald, that would give cause for these individuals then here to attack him. Maybe, I don't know, we still aren't given a full account of what exactly happened,
Yeah.
I had
but that's
Yeah,
the way that I kind of see it.
Mhm.
I like the flipping. I also wanted to look because when I look a bit deeper, I just realized the horn could actually be his mustache because of the way he's tilted up. Because his mustache, when you see later on, has
His
a similar
mustache
form.
was flipped.
No, but I was
Yeah,
like,
okay.
what if it's not even flipping because he's already a king, right? And the flipping thing is to make a new king. I said, what if it's a full Hakuba Cavendish thing, where he's almost feel like he's being taken over? And I was wondering, what if Harold gave the order to his guards to take him out? Similar to
Yeah,
how King
see, I can
Riku was
see that
yelling
being a
for
thing.
someone for taking. When Kiku was being controlled, he was wishing in his mind, somebody take me out. I don't want to take out
Yeah.
my own people.
Exactly.
What does it look
Yeah,
like around his feet?
Yeah. So I like the
What does it look
flipping.
like?
Flipping or the possession.
Like he'd been
it
flipped.
has to be one of the two. Flipping
he
or the
did.
possession.
Yes.
Could be interesting.
There's like smoke going around his feet. That's like all the soldiers we see are closer
True.
to us than whatever this energy is around his feet.
Yeah.
I think so as well. And then like we had discussed with 3-Day, there was, shout out the Navigator of the Eternal Dawn, there was some cracks and stuff within the summoning circle that we saw previously in the castle that had indicated it may have been there for quite a while. So I think that there's a lot of credence to that and Harold being flipped. And if you want to move past the Shanks and Ridley stuff, just so we can talk about this part all at like together.
I said Ridley.
Why
Ripley, my bad.
You're not going to pass by the other greatest part of this chapter, are you?
No, of course not. I'm just to talk about it all like within context to each other. I think that what happened to Ya Rule too, towards the end of the chapter where he gets in the head, was to stop whatever process had begun on him as well. Because we saw that the flipping does spread to people, and with Ya Rule being so close to Harold, he could probably be affected by it real quick. So I think
Question,
he
where's
began to
Harold's
flip as
sword
well
right now?
in Ya Rule's head.
Well, the question is like, there has to be some other purpose for him to still be around and alive right now in Oda's, like, from Oda's perspective.
Of course.
He's doing this for another reason, because why not just take out Ja Rule? Why keep him in play and just remove his memories of this from the equation? It's too convenient for it to not be building up to something else. And we don't have the full story and all of the answers. So it's making me wonder, but like, he could have just easily had Ja Rule taken out in this interaction, just like 113 other bystanders.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like there's a reason this man is still here today. And I think that his missing memories and very potentially that sword have that's some pieces to the puzzle. I have no possible idea what the significance is, but we do have to keep a mind open about that.
Of course, that's
There's
why I
actually
think
something. Oh, sorry.
just real quick. That's why I'm leaning towards maybe it was to stop the possession, and that maybe because of how it was stopped, that's why he's lost his memories, or he's playing coy and he still does remember, but he has to sell the lie.
No way.
Yeah, that's why I feel like because of how gullible he is and like the way we've seen him interact, I think you're right. I think he has forgotten, and it's probably the wound.
So I could see it being that Loki decides to martyr himself here, and he gives this old man who he disagrees with the option of deniability. It's plausible deniability, you know, but like I don't know if that we've gotten that characterization from either of these individuals. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Loki choosing to martyr himself is probably actually a shoo-in. And when we come out of this flashback, that's probably going to be revealed. I think that him taking on that mantle of like, oh yeah, I'm horrible, I did it. Because it's and somebody said it in King Recon's reaction to this chapter. Shout out to Coach, we love him. But they said that like, when does a man truly die is when he's forgotten, and his father is remembered as Harold the Benevolent, as the greatest king Elbath had ever known. And it would break his heart maybe to see his father's memory turned into or vilified into something darker. So him taking this all on himself and choosing to live in the underworld and be chained up and imprisoned, and even have his brother at his own throat to protect and preserve the memory of not just his father, but Elbaf's greatest king, like the culture of this island. You know what I mean? I think that is a given. I don't know how much we can expect from Ja Rule here, though. So that's where I'm still curious.
So I was going to say, in terms of parallel with what people have been talking, so I'm not the one who caught it, which is crazy because I do love this arc, even though people love to slander it because I think it just came way too early. People have brought some interesting parallel, like Will of Dreams, with Sir Village, with some of the actions taken by Kuro. And if you think about it, there's something very interesting that could be parallel to what you guys are talking is Kuro wanted to become, you know, the inheritor. So he had a plan that he waited for 3 years. But on that fateful night, that's how he calls it, the fateful night, they use hypnosis on someone to make him seem that he's the one who took out Captain Kuro. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of inversion with Sir Village where, what do you guys talk about? The fact that Ja Rule has memory problems. What if it's some among the people who attacked had the ability to affect someone's mind, like almost hypnosis?
I like
and
that
just before
idea.
they left,
Oh, go ahead.
just before they left, installed this, which obviously the Loki stuff is on point, but whoever that person said it, he might actually believe it because that's what they wanted them, you know, to cover their tracks.
Because even if the sword did do damage to his brain and that's why he can't remember, he definitely walked into that room with Loki and saw what was going on first. That said, in the heat of the moment like that, that's the parasympathetic nervous system does wild things, you know what I mean? It was the heat, but no, it does wild things. So like he could even forget because of the trauma to his head, the memory of walking into the room and seeing what he saw. One thing I do want to speak on too with the whole martyr aspect that you had brought up, Vex, is think of Zoro. If Loki is the last crew member that we get, right? I'm counting Vivi in crew members still because even though she left the ship, she's always a Straw
she's a crew
Hat.
member. Oda
Yeah,
has said it. She's inactive, but she's a crew member.
Exactly. But if he is the last crew member we get, this is just setting him up to parallel Zoro, even though Zoro's martyrdom was in like lesser extent. You know, he took the hit for the girl and stuff, but actually
the horse and the tree from Thriller Bark, they're still gonna join.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about 2 of our goats.
Yeah.
No. I've said this. If the horse, now I'm saying this. If the horse in the tree joins the Straw Hats, I'm saying it now. We need the true fourth Straw Hat, Shushu.
There was.
Of course.
Oh my god! There was foreshadowing with the Mekon tree all the way back. You know, like it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But just to finish my point, though, is that like Loki's introduction, the whole community noticed it very much mirrored Zoro's introduction as well. He was crucified. He was kind of obstinate against Luffy at first, but then it was like, "I'll make you a deal." You know what I mean? You do this for me, and I'll do this for you, kind of thing. So I like how if Loki is, because obviously the martyr thing, like you said, it's a shoo-in. But if Loki is the final Straw Hat, then it is such a good full circle, like parallel almost. I don't know how better to explain it, but it's a really nice, solid, like bringing together the final crew member with the.
I don't think he's actually joining. I'm going to be completely real. I think Luffy did that just as a semantic and kind of. I feel like Luffy maybe knew how that situation would have ended. More or less, but Gabon interjected. I don't like. I feel like there's. I just don't think he's gonna actually legitimately join. If anything, he'll join the new Giant Warriors and become part of the Grand Fleet with his brother, right?
Of course.
And that would parallel what they said in Old Garden when they first talked about the Giant Warrior Pirates. It's a crew made up of two leaders with equal responsibility. That sails around. So I could see them as Grand Fleet, and obviously now with Yamato, we're seeing Yamato building up the Beast Pirate faction. So it could be like the Grand Fleet will be like what we saw with Whitebeard, and he has actual fleets with maybe like Usopp leading the Dressrosa fleet. The Wano fleet is led by Zoro, like the commanders having an actual fleet that follows them. And that would be cool.
Usopp's going to lead the entire fleet because 10,000 men under his belt is going to become true.
But oh man, so I had something else. Oh yeah, so speak on the memory aspect and whatnot. This is 14 years ago, and we'll talk about that specific date and why that's maybe a little bit important when we cover the Shanks and Gabon conversation a bit more. But 14 years ago, Pudding would be like 2 years old. She almost definitely does not have the memo fruit. Somebody literally could have just stolen this, guys. I don't really think, but like a previous user of the memory fruit could have literally just like, I don't know. It's really interesting because if that was like a previous like Holy Night
that's what
that got maybe yes. I don't know. There's a lot of potentials here, also, so you have to keep an open mind when Oda has introduced these concepts that could very easily answer these things. I don't think that it's likely, but I think it's possible. You know,
and Loki said he fought the Holy Knights before, so like if one of them had the Memo fruit and he took him out, it'd be like, well.
And in Marineford, you know, Django admitted. Ever since he's been part of the world government and the Marines, his hypnosis skills have increased, have become much, much better, meaning that there might be people in the world government and the Marines who know how to train people to be hypnosis. So I like the memo thing, but what if among the God's Knights side, there's someone who has literally an ability of hypnotic? Like, look at what Killingham could do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what if someone has a mythical that has memory abilities? Sorry?
I said, be beautiful. God. That's what Killingham does. He just be beautiful.
I thought you said I'm being beautiful. That's what I was
You are beautiful. And your hypnotism.
No, I thought you were saying that. Anyways. Yeah.
But
I do like the idea. I do like the idea where you bring up
Yeah.
the memory, like someone actually altered, like, and that would be similar to Sir Village as well, where
Yeah.
the whole thing.
And
So
I
that could be
can't
interesting.
stress enough, I don't think that's likely, but it is still possible. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and say for 400 chapters, the consecutively, this is gonna be revealed. I'm not gonna die on that hill. I'm just saying there are things in this world that can make it make sense. Oda has introduced already, and the timelines are open enough, currently. But we gotta get into the Giga Chad section of the chapter. Am I right?
Yeah.
Like,
Itching.
Nack's been
This
sitting over here like,
is
God, shut up,
crazy.
guys. I want to talk about shakes.
No, well, there's
speak
there's
on
many
it,
things
King.
I want to talk about here. So, this is the first time they've met since Roger passed. I thought that was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
The tattoo, which we memed about back when we first got word of the mark that this is why Shank's arm was ripped off.
Yeah.
It's confirmed to be on his arm, which is
Oda's listening.
Oda's
in our
gotta,
walls.
gotta be trolling at this point.
It's
But
so
God love him
funny.
because it's so perfect. And,
It really is.
Thank you, Oda. Appreciate that. But this is what I love the most. So they haven't been talking. So it's been 10 years. Yeah, it must feel like forever ago to you, huh? Yeah, life's completely changed. I honestly just wanted to be a carefree pirate with Buggy. Still, Elbaf, there's some things I'd like to know. This, to me, was fascinating. Because it means something happened that he can't explain to even Gaban that's caused him to change his life path. This is the big nugget I need answers to. The Child of Destiny is the next line that is fascinating as well. But it gets cut off before we can get the answers. Remember Little Garden where we met Dory and Broggy? Of course, and then Ripley comes in and ruins all the exposition. But
the way that
Whatever.
Gaban says
Hey,
this,
you
and
leave
it
her
could
alone.
just
She's
it
a nice
could-
lady.
it could just be the translation. I really want to wait for officials, because I do know Dex, homie of the Eternal Dawn, gave us a really good breakdown of what they used in the Japanese text. But the way he says it, it's almost like saying you were a gifted child, in my opinion. I don't think the Child of Destiny line is as important people are thinking it is. And if it is, it could just mean
Yeah.
a broader spectrum of
He
you're
was
one of
found
the
in a
people that
chest.
will help.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
you know what I mean?
should've
It's just,
survived is the idea. Yeah,
exactly.
He's a miracle baby.
He's a miracle baby.
To me,
He's a
this
rainbow
feels. To me, this feels very much like the whole crown jewel versus just the word treasure kind of argument from back when God Valley was still. We were still getting those chapters. I'm not gonna form any opinions on this at all until we
Officials.
know more. And I don't specifically speak or read Japanese, so I won't know anymore. But currently, I just think that it's I feel I don't know, child of fortune is maybe a word that could be because he was literally found in a chest. But either way, regardless, he does refer to it as a tricky topic in these translations specifically. And I'm wondering, I don't know, because there's future sight here in this world. There's prophecies in this world. It was prophesized that the accursed prince would cause the death of his father. It was prophesized that Luffy would bring destruction to Fishman Island. It was prophesized so many different. There's a level of determinism within the fabric of this reality.
Yeah.
Right.
Events
And-
will play out in a specific order, and that's something that we've all had to have come to terms with a long time ago.
Exactly.
When reading One Piece, right? So this specific child potentially being an anomaly could just mean that they are able to change a future outcome that other people aren't. And I'm wondering if that might be it, if there is some significance to this wording. I don't know. But I think that in a world where there is a deterministic timeline because of these prophetic powers, it's really hard to write in some character who's supposed to be like a chosen one trope, you know what I mean? Or especially two characters, because if Luffy already fills that role, then what the hell is Shanks? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there was something that was said that I'm waiting for the official, because something I've been always talking, and it's something that was introduced in Skypiea, where people, or in Arlong Park, where people knew that they could be heard by the god himself, and they had to keep it to themselves. The way he says, let's not talk about such tricky things. I am wondering, is it similar to that in Skypiea, where there are certain things that they know that if they talk, Imu can sense it. Similar to how almost it felt like Imu could sense what Sabo was saying about the empty throne. So because of the way Scopper is saying, I'm wondering if like there are some things are when they say it's taboo, you can't even speak about it. You have to be, you know, like Vegapunk also said, I have to be careful what I'm saying right now. I can be taken out. So I'm very curious about that. Like if Imu has that reach. Like there's certain tag words.
It's just like I said. For me, it's just the way he says it. It's the were a child of destiny. It's not you are a child of, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why you got to wait on officials, because I don't want to get too hung up on it. But at the same time, it feels like something that we had talked about too in a VC the other night after the chapter was that, you know, Shanks may have had just a piece in it, right? Like he was supposed to take the devil fruit to Dawn Island and give it to Ace or whatever, or give it, and then Luffy got it or something like that. And that was his role to play in the Destiny. But now that he's played that out, you know, it's no longer the case. But yeah, Nak, I know you had something you wanted to spit on.
No, what I'm looking at it as is he was a child of destiny, as in he was a celestial that was raised by pirates. Like he was just kind of put on the path he was put on without his own decision. And that was his past. Like this isn't who he is now. Like that's the you were part. And I don't really put much stock in child of destiny translation, because that could mean anything. But I think that's what he's referring to, you know. The fact you're even able to even here in the situation you're in was just purely fortunate circumstances. Like you are a child of destiny.
Yeah.
Kind of things.
Yeah, I think that the next bit that's extremely interesting to me is when these two absolute chads are interacting. They mention that, like, oh, you know Harold, right? And he says, yeah, I met him at Marie Joie.
Yeah, that's spicy.
Let's unpack that a bit. That's crazy. So we had heard from Shamrock before that Shanks had once returned already. And a lot of people were wondering, is that 906 or is there more that we are unaware of Shanks's backstory, which is, you know, we don't know a lot about Shanks. In fact, the information we get in this chapter rewrites potentially some of the only things we know about Shanks, making this chapter probably the biggest chapter for his entire character arc so far.
Yeah.
As far as what we as an audience know currently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was 17 years ago, and this proves that between
this is 14
ago
years.
and 17.
14 years ago.
This is 10 years after Roger's execution.
Which was 24
Yeah,
years
Yeah,
ago.
24
Roger, 24
ago.
years.
I thought he was 25 at the beginning of the story for some reason. Either way, so what is it? 24. So this is 14 years ago exactly.
Correct.
This is before
Yes.
the Who's Who incident. This is before
Like right
anything.
before.
It's 1
yeah.
year.
Yeah,
It's
1 year.
right
Yeah,
at the
this is-
start. It's right at the start of Corazon and Law's
Mhm.
travel to look for the opioid, because they find 13 years
This
ago,
is
but
like
they leave
the-
a year before.
This is the
Yeah.
the jump off point. Like everything we know of Shanks is post this.
Yeah.
What's crazy is that, like, Kuma, you know, we're in the Kuma flashback right now. Kuma's probably on
Right.
Dawn Island right now watching Luffy train, which is like, oh,
Right.
man.
That's
But yeah, this
wild.
is right before the story starts to pop off.
No, it'd be like
Like-
2 years after this. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
remember he saw
You're right,
saw
you're-
Luffy
you're
as
totally
a
right.
preteen. He saw Luffy as a preteen.
Yeah,
Well,
12
this is
years
before
ago
Luffy
after,
even gets the fruit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. This is before, and plus
Yeah, yeah.
Bonnie wasn't born yet, and so like even
Yeah.
I'd say like 6 years before that.
So
Or,
this is
yeah.
like him in the middle of his like sad boy revolutionary days, like
Exactly.
But
There's
just a place where this is along the timeline. But yes, the incident with Shanks and Who's Who and Cypher Pole, that doesn't happen for one more year. And then the following year is the year that Luffy eats the devil fruit.
Yep.
That's exactly how
is where
this
all
timeline
the
fits.
stones started to fall. This is it right here.
so
This is incredible.
so I have actually one or two things to bring up with this exchange, which is something that we spit when we first heard that storyline of when Scopper saved Roger when he was sick, and I mean we all spit on it, but them going to Little Garden seems to be that might be possible that maybe Roger got bitten by the same insect. If the Straw Hat, yeah, and that's why Korea knew Roger's real name and had a vaccine for something that's been extinct for centuries. And she just had one or two cases since then that has come to her thing. So Roger could be one of them. But another thing that's interesting is what Vex is saying. If Shamrock is right and Shanks has already been once to the Holy Land, and it wasn't in 906, there is definitely like inner conflict between the Gorsei and the God's Knight, because they weren't happy when they saw Garling showing up. And the Gorsei said this: if that's Shamrock, they said, you're not welcome in these halls.
Yeah.
Which I say this is even more interesting than if it's not Shanks. The fact you said it to a God's Knight.
Yeah. Well, the fact that Shanks also said to Gabon here before it's too late may indicate he knew something was going to happen to Harold.
Well, that's something I want to talk about is like Shanks is here.
Yeah.
Of all days, for this to be the first time he has been to Elbaf since maybe being there with Roger and company, right? Like, so, like
Yeah.
if while the captain was still alive, they showed up on Elbaf, cool. But since Roger's passing, this is the first time he has met with Gabon. And so we can assume this is the first time he showed up to Elbaf since he was a little baby. So this is why this day is Shanks here. And specifically, this is also the exact same day that Harold potentially got reversied and then Brutused.
Almost
so like this is like
the Abyss and him are connected.
It's really, really, really weird. And he even mentions like we couldn't speak freely in the Holy Land. And he says to Gabon that he really wants to talk to him now that he's here in Elbaf. I don't know if that's throwing dirt. I don't want to resurrect the Rat Shanks agenda. I always hated it. Like I cannot stand that shit.
It does feel like he was distracting Scopper. I will agree on it.
It's too convenient. It is too convenient.
And there is something that was brought up by another content creator that a while ago, and I've always liked that idea. But he was always saying, what if Shanks always were in the, like, he knew a lot of stuff because of his lineage. It was when it came out after One Piece Red. Because he said, if you look at the timing, the world government was avoiding Shanks to seeing Whitebeard for some reason. It's like they couldn't meet. Shanks knew that there was a whole thing that was going to happen with Blackbeard. And when Blackbeard saw Ace, he wasn't really surprised. Like he was expecting him. And that was been after Lafitte made a contact with the world government. So the idea was, what if Shanks was aware that they were trying to get Whitebeard? So they were using Blackbeard with it. After Lafitte came to see them. It's an old theory. So with that in question, I am wondering if Shanks gets like more information that even the Flamingo got. Like he knows fine details of certain missions. Like he might even be in good terms with Shamrock almost. Like him and Shamrock are exchanging information. Or someone else.
That would actually be really interesting. Because I do like the Shanks as a rat agenda. Or if not a rat, like he's a double agent, not or triple agent even, where he's kind of playing all sides because he needs the outcome to
He's Anakin Skywalker. He lost his arm. He plays both sides.
He's a
child of prophecy. Apparently, he's a child of prophecy as well.
You were the chosen one. You were supposed to bring balance to these seas, not leave them in ruin.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so we can.
Yeah, I think.
I was gonna move us on towards the last pages of the chapter.
Before guys, we have to talk about. We always give props for Polly and his crazy hairstyle, but who would have thought Scopper did it first?
Yeah.
Scopper did it.
He's
He
looking
has
like a
Scopper
straight Chad.
style. Sorry.
No. So do we think that that's? I don't think that's Loki walking up to the devil fruit chest, guys.
No, it's definitely
It's
someone
not.
else.
It's definitely a
No
God's
horns.
Knight, right? That's definitely
Yeah,
a
we don't
God's
see the
Knight, right?
horns. Loki has much broader shoulder. Like he has a huge hammer. Even like there's his silhouette doesn't. I mean, if listen,
Nothing screams Loki
Oda's-
here for me.
Oda has fooled me already with a Loki silhouette. I won't do this again, y'all. I mean, that could be anybody.
That's
that could
cheeky. No.
That's Kaido.
No, you.
So I have
you remember?
something.
You remember everyone thinking that Yamato or Hiyori's silhouette was NL back in Wano.
I remember that. That was hilarious. So I
So
do
this
have
is an
some-
L. Until it's revealed, that's an L.
Yeah.
So I do have something, and it comes from a Vex theory in the beginning of the arc, where because it
Let's
does
go.
have cases that there is an actual Gomu, and what if Loki ate the real Gomu, and there's a timeline wise because whatever that person seems to be running away, right? What if this coincides with the Shanks taking the fruit? So what if like because they said they only recently found out about the name of the fruit, right? Right now, so the year 0. But what if 12 to 14 years ago, they still didn't have the name, and they found possibility of 2 candidates, 2 fruits. So what I'm wondering if 13 years ago, a year later on, what if Who's Who was transporting 2 fruits, the Nika and the Gomu, and Shanks swiped the Nika, and Loki could have thought he had taken the Nika, hence he calls himself the Sun God. And when Luffy eats the fruit, he tells him, "Oh, you ate the Gomu Gomu." I'm wondering if this goes back like the fruit was out of possession for a full year before Loki took his hand on it. Like it coincides. What if there were 2 fruits that were being transported 14 years ago, 13 years ago? Explains why it took them forever. And it's only if everyone believes that the person who had the Nika fruit is locked away in Elbaf, it explains why the world government were too hesitant to make a move. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
He's locked away. He's not a threat for us. So I'm wondering if
Yeah.
an original. I know Kush
Well-
also spoke to me about it, but I know Vex, you were one of the first to talk about what if Loki actually ate the real Gomu Gomu.
I have it too. Yeah, like so. I like my 2 fruit theory. Since the information that we've gotten here is that like what is in there is, as it currently stands right now, that is the Sun God Nika fruit in that chest, and I do believe that. I think Shanks is probably somebody who was in possession of the simple Gomu Gomu, a paramecia, instead of a god fruit, right? And I think he
swap
did an
them.
old switcheroo.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, I honestly do believe that if Loki does have a power that he thinks is akin to Nika, it's just simple rubber.
The Gummo Gummo.
And that Luffy is the one who has the Gear 5 ability, and that he is the one who has the Sun God fruit. And I spoke on it when we got the Ragnir flex. That like the lightning that was coming off of Ragnir, we weren't positive if that was or was not hockey lightning, or if it was Ragnir lightning or Loki lightning, but it did start a fire. And Hardriden in that chapter specifically said like, wait, put Ragnir down in the cliffhanger right before, and he's like, Loki said none of y'all can even pick it up. So if the weapon itself were to have some sort of electric powers, a rubber man would be able to pick it up no problem, whereas it would fry anybody else. So I'm along the lines of thinking that Loki is a rubber man, just a simple rubber man, no resin, no Gear 5, no Nika, no nothing, just rubber. And I think that he is that entity in the story.
It would make sense too for him to
Ragnir into like Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. That only the one who's consumed the fruit can lift it. Like in a different sense than the chosen one, right?
exactly.
Passed down, and it makes that weapon usable.
I think that a big part of this could be too the fact that like he keeps calling himself Nika and stuff is just that, because he has not had, if he ate the fruit 14 years ago on that day, he's not had the time to awaken it. So in his mind, he's like, once I awaken this devil fruit after I escape, I'll be able to, you know what I mean, turn into Nika. Like it's like, oh no,
it's
you
a
won't,
rubber
Bubby.
fruit, and it's a rubber fruit until you awaken it. So yeah, like for me, it makes perfect thing. And to even more give credence in this whole like the swap that happened 13 years ago, and that if the fruit was taken and then brought, and then there were that possibility, this also could explain. And I went to look back. The way Shanks finds the fruit on the ship does not make sense. They were in the middle of nowhere, traveling, and then Shanks just pulls off anywhere. But what if they were chasing them? We don't realize it. They were fleeing the new world, and they were coming back to where they were, like maybe they were bringing it to Marijoa.
Yeah, bro.
And,
He's got a dude named Chaser specifically in his crew. Like,
I mean, yeah, of course,
yeah,
of course. But like I said, it's not like they knew about the island themselves. You know what I mean? Like it was on an island. It was in middle of transit, so it could make sense if they were actually following them from afar already. A bit like Mihawk with Dog Creek.
My original two fruit theory was thinking that they had the Yami, or they were going for the Yami and got the Nika or the Gomu Gomu by mistake or something like that. And like I don't know, because the Yami and the original Gomu that we were told was the Gomu, but is actually the Hito Hito model Nika. Like they look extremely similar. So I thought that Shanks did a bait and switch there. But now seeing this, like ever since we got to Elbaf and heard about this legendary devil fruit, I'm like, and somebody else claiming to be the sun god and stuff like that. Like I do think that the Gomu Gomu fruit and the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika are two completely non-synonymous, separate things. And I could go either way. Maybe Loki is him and has the actual Nika fruit, and Luffy just has the inherited will and has a fruit. I don't know. Like either way, I don't care. Oda can make it work. But I do think that they have essentially the same powers.
Yeah.
I'd love it. I'd love it so much.
And I do think that Shanks was here specifically to do this little switcheroo on this day. Like if he knew that other people were about to move out, maybe this is a cope, but maybe it also is a way of exonerating him from the rat agenda. So it's like maybe he didn't cause this, maybe he prevented it from being much, much worse than it could have been, because he was in such a privileged position. So I think it could go either way to me. Though if you ask me which one I prefer, I'd prefer that Shanks kept the Nika fruit from falling into the world government's hands right here and there. If you're asking which one is more likely, I don't know. I don't want bias in my discussion, you know, like so I can't tell you truthfully which one is more likely. I feel like they're both on even footing with the information that we have. I'll tell you which one I prefer though.
So there's actually, and then I'll let you guys spit. It's just a small thing to add to what Vex is saying. And we always have to look at brother-sibling relation. It's been very shown that usually the siblings have a similar way of thinking. I do not believe that Buggy and Shanks are that different. There must be some side of Buggy that Shanks has as well, and that's the side that we've seen of Buggy. He might do the thing on the right side, but always like will play the trick on even on his allies sometimes if he thinks it's the better option. And I could see Shanks having that. It's like maybe Shanks pulled a fast one. Even though Roger, it was never part of the Roger Power plan, but Shanks is like Buggy, freestyling. He thinks that's the best way, and so he's being deceitful even to his friends. So yeah, so I do like that.
Moving past the devil fruit stuff, and getting into what another flashback within the flashback. The way I'm picturing this is it's Loki telling the story. So he's telling his brother and Luffy, like, this is what I walked in and saw, and then giving Luffy the context to why that's such a shocking image, right? Because he walks in, sees all these people unaliving his father, and then he's like, Straw Hat, for you to understand, this is why. Luffy's locked in on this one. Did you see? He's looking right at Loki.
No,
he's like,
Luffy is being told Loki's accounts of that day.
Yeah.
When we get another layer deep here, this is narrator boxes. This is not text boxes.
Exactly what
nobody is telling Harold's tale to Luffy right now. Loki is telling Loki's tale to Luffy. We are getting more. Luffy is not.
We're learning.
People are like, why would Loki? Yeah, like I think I was watching a Tekking video, and Tekking's like, I don't know how Loki knows all this stuff about his dad from 109 years ago. I'm like, he doesn't. Like, well, maybe he does, but he's not saying those things right now. What we are getting right now is narrator information, which is a whole nother level of accountability than a character's firsthand accounts, or or even secondhand accounts,
true
right? So like
compared to someone giving this story to us.
exactly, like when the narrator tells us, like when Kaido's introduction, how many times he's been captured and shit like that. When a narrator tells us when the Grand Fleet is formed that they will play a pivotal, we trust the narrator specifically, but somebody can tell us misinformation because they have been fed world government propaganda, or because they had wool pulled over their eyes, or didn't, like even Gabon said, maybe we didn't have the full story. Literally in this chapter, this is not from Loki's perspective. This is from on high. This is Oda telling us. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I just thought it was a cool way to look at the flashback.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We go 109 years
Yeah,
that's crazy.
From present day, which is wild.
Super exciting, because I remember talking about Harold potentially being a giant warrior pirate before he changed his ways. What I did not expect was him being such a young king, which is awesome to find out. But it also explains their reputation. We found out back on Little Garden that they were feared across the world as evil pirates. And Dorian Broggy are not evil. We know that. But this is the kind of guy that they had around. Like this savage who would just come in and destroy stuff. And like father, like son, he kicks a man through a building just like Loki kicked a man through the door.
Oops, my foot slipped.
Not 4 panels ago or 4 pages ago. In the exact same way. It's amazing. I'm super excited to get more on Harold.
In what world is this a 15-year-old child?
So for me, there's also something interesting. I'm wondering with the flashback if we are going to get a whole because of the giant warrior aspect of Dorian Broggy when they were to his little garden, like Nak is bringing up, and how Harold is. What if there's a bit of a ASL type of vibe with all 3 of them? Ace, Sabo, and Luffy when they're young, like the Havoc. And now when you see them you saw him as an adult, Ace was happy to be a family man. Sabo wants to change the world, and Luffy wants to say the free person that he is, So I'm wondering if like there was this trio dynamic back then, because you think about it, Dorian Broggy are just 160 years old. So they're not really old in terms of giants like we would expect.
They would have been about 20
but
here.
When I'm saying 15, like he's like 45 in terms of giant years. Like they explain that there.
He's got the body of a 15-year-old human, but a giant.
You know what I'm saying?
For the sake of the stream, for the rest of the stream, we will specifically be referring to the bigger number of their age. So this is a 45-year-old, and Dorian Broggy would be, I think, like they'd be approaching 60 at this point. They're like mid 50s,
or just under or just over,
Yeah, so not that far in age. So it could be like, and Sabo and Ace were the same age, and Luffy was younger. So it could be a similar ASL dynamic, which could be interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to get it misconstrued. It's just the fact it took only 15 human years for Elbaf to recognize him as a king that I find incredible here.
What I'm looking at is which one of these individuals do you think is the wielder of the future Nash?
Ooh, the guy right behind that Dory.
Yeah.
Wait, that's Oimo.
That's gotta be. Yeah, there's Oimo and Kashi
there,
and Dorian Broggy. But one of these people on this crew alongside these guys has to be
Nash.
Goldberg's dad, right?
Yeah.
So keep an eye out during this flashback and see if you can spot him. Let us know in the comments if you found him. I do also want to mention this huge, crazy panel. First of all, this guy's design is sick.
Yeah,
this is crazy. When we get
Loki has his belt.
Up Loki. Flow, bro.
Yeah.
No way. Like the giant sword, the facial tattoos. It's badass.
Well, so when we get like, it's not quite an Oda box, but like this little parchment scroll saying King Harold of Warland Elbaf, and then next to it we see his laugh, Loki's laugh we have heard before. Yeah, Loki is Doga ha 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 ha, and for his dad Harold to be Bara ha 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 ha. This is very interesting. because laughs before have mirrored devil fruits. And what is the Bara Bara no Mi?
Chop chop.
Yeah, the
Is
top
this
top
the
two.
previous Chop Chop?
No,
user? Like, I don't know. Like,
the timeline doesn't add up. For him to have died 14 years ago, and Buggy got his, what, like 30 something years ago? 20 something?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
he was 10 years old,
No,
and he's
yeah, you're
39 now.
Yeah.
He was 10 years old when he had it.
I was hoping though.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
I've had this same conversation a couple times now, but like I see the vision.
Exactly, Will. Face tats just like Ripley.
Yeah, face tats just
Well, I was
like
like,
Ripley.
I was wondering, yeah, the timeline doesn't match up, but I was wondering if because maybe that's why he didn't eat the devil fruit that's passed down
because he
from
has
king
one.
to king in Elbaf is because he already had a devil fruit. Exactly.
He doesn't have the bar. He has the bar fruit that allows him to get as drunk as he wants.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is really sick. The Ripley eye tattoo thing is a connection I didn't really draw, but yeah, that is definitely there. But he is described to be complete scum.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
knocking over
Right from the
castles
narrator's
and
mouth.
yelling at people, "Who's your god now?" Like,
Which is
it's
wild,
crazy.
dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Despite this, King Harold,
so-
remarkably enough, was pure scum. So there's
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah,
a massive
so-
redemption story built into this flashback we can expect.
For sure.
For him to
I
rip
think,
his
like-
horns off and change his ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like akin to Odin. Odin was a bit of
Right.
a shithead. He wasn't quite this
Right.
bad, but
No,
like if you turn
no,
Odin up
that's
to
wild.
11, I feel like that's kind of like this is what this flashback is kind of giving me
Yep.
those vibes at the moment. You know, is if
I'm
we
gonna
get,
go-
and
I'm gonna
I honestly hope
I'm gonna go further. I think it's not even Odin level. I think it's Kyros' level. From
oh,
the
damn.
Oh, damn.
Like
Cold-blooded
actual
killer.
crimes being committed. You know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
But it's very, very interesting. I've heard a lot of people talking about these characters that we see here. There's a king and a quote unquote beautiful princess in this like last page here, and people are thinking that's Harold's mom, or not Harold's mom. That's Haruden's mom, and I'm like, I don't know about that, but maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of information. This has been one of the most detail packed chapters we have gotten since the mural. I feel like there's been
Yeah.
big reveals, but it was like the singular reveal of that chapter. This, I felt like every other page was like, oh shit,
wanna
that's
know-
huge. Like, you know what I mean?
How big of a reveal the mural is? It's the same chapter Shamrock's introduced.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Oda Bucks. Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, but I agree. I think Oda really nailed just how much information he gave us in this chapter. This is a really well done layout for it. Yeah,
If you got no,
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to touch on something Winston just said there about how Harold might have seen himself as the sun god as well, and I think it's like Dory and I'm not sure which one, Dory or Bragi and Elbaf or Egghead, excuse me again, said that all warriors of Elbaf used to dream to be the sun god. So I think it's more of a manifestation type thing where they all, as they become powerful, they're like, I'm the god. Like people, you know,
Yeah, I'm the
more
sun
people
god now.
Look at me as exactly. It's not that they all have specifically the god fruit, and now possibly Harold did at this point. But I think it's more so along the lines that, like Brogy said, they all want to be the sun god at some point in their life. They grow up
Yeah.
wanting to be the sun god.
dude, I like that a lot. And plus, yeah, that's really good.
I had two things to
okay.
bring up. Go ahead, you go ahead first.
Oh no, I was just
Emu
gonna say,
Nerona is in the chat.
I really,
Don't cancel
There's
it.
no
really.
such thing as a sun god.
There's no thing as this. Okay, Emu, chill. We've not brought up any kind of kingdoms that may or may not exist. But no, I really like Harold's design. I feel like we can learn a lot from him just from this singular panel and this little bit of interactions. Obviously, we're going to learn more about him as well. And I'm just gonna be real, because I'm very excited about this flashback. I've been waiting for it since like the whole mystery between like what happened with Harold's death and Loki has started, and I'm just hype. I'm very, very hyped.
If you've been watching, you've known we've been saying the flashback is on the rise. It's coming
Yeah.
soon, so
It's on
Yeah.
several of our
Expect it.
bingo cards.
It's on- yeah.
So yeah, like
I literally marked it off this week. I was like, Loki flashback, okay.
why'd you say that like chicken jockey?
Chicken
So-
jockey, Loki flashback.
one more
Is it-
thing before Vex, you get into your final points there, but I wanted to stress that the size of Harold's sword is the size of an average giant. But look at this, and in the panel we see where Harold is being stabbed. There is no sword on him that size. And if you see one, it's hidden.
Yeah.
Because that sword is missing, and that's the sword that ends up in Harold's forehead, and that's why I
Jarl's.
don't think. Excuse me, Jarl's forehead. That's why I don't think Harold put it there.
Yeah, I'm really interested to get more of what Loki's telling is, because that was like splintered and fragmented up, and now we're getting this Harold bit from the narrator itself. But we will obviously. I feel like there's more to there. It's not just that I feel like there's more. There's definitely more. I feel like Luffy will find out more, but we will only get that after we figure out more about Harold. So this is for context. And the thing is that in this flashback it says, and the age confusion we were talking about earlier, I'll bring it up here again. It says that Harold is just 45 years of age, and in human terms, that's 15 years old.
Yeah.
Which is, there's a bit of a 3 times multiplier there from human age to giant age, or human time to giant time potentially. And it's really also interesting that Gabon, while in the hot tub with Shanks, had been like, yeah, it's been like what, 3 or 4 years. And Shanks is like, what are you talking about? It's been 10 years. If you find a point in between 3 or 4 years, like let's just say like 3.3, and you multiply that by 3, like we did with Harold's human to giant years, it comes out. So I don't believe in the time dilation stuff.
You're threading that line.
It's
Yeah.
very
Yes.
interesting that we would get this, and it's like, I don't even really feel like calling it supporting evidence, but it kind of is. I'm not gonna.
It is.
Let's call a spade a spade.
It
No,
is
like legitimately,
very
let's
compelling.
call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really interesting
right
to
in our
think about, and a lot
faces.
of people are trying to. Yeah, a lot of people are trying to poke holes in it. I'm like, listen, if you try to poke holes in it, you absolutely can. That is not how the scientific method works. We have to try to convince ourselves of it. And like
Otis'
I think
scientific
it's
method is-
I think it's just it's really
Otific
interesting.
method.
I'm not fully sold, but I am becoming more open to that line of thinking.
Love it.
Whenever people first posed the time dilation stuff, when Louis Arnaud's warning was, on panel, I immediately was like, "Pff, okay, sure."
All
And
right, yeah.
it is since become much less laughable and much more plausible. I still don't think that's really it, but
Mini
maybe
time
it is.
skip.
Okay, we can hear you.
So did the
Did you
stream
close
stop?
it?
Yeah, it crashed completely. Everyone left. Like there were 2 or 3 people left who stayed.
That
Since it
says
was
we're
the
still live.
It's because you didn't hit the end button.
Yeah, now I'm trying to get in there to
There,
do
I
it.
did it.
Okay.
I just did it.
Okay.